I was born and raised in Kansas, so I'm not up north. I'm a Midwesterner, and when you are born in Kansas, everything you say is corny. That's what I was told anyway. Hey, it's great to be here tonight. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you what's been going on with my station, and especially starting off here with the beginning, which was called Doing the Tail Twister. Does anybody know what that really means? Some of you do. Yeah, you were there. Okay. Well, the tail twister is the model of my rotator that's in my beacon tower there and everything. And at the time that it finally quit, we couldn't tell for sure if it was a bad cable or if it was bad electronics in the tail twister or what it was. So all of my friends came out. I should go to the last picture real quick for you just because I want you to see. Well, you can see them down here in the corner. You see down here? I'll zoom in on a few of those even and then bring them back over here so you can see the guys standing there watching somebody else do all the work. And so over here, of course, things are hidden, and we're looking forward to, in fact, we've already started to tilt the tower over. It goes up about 20 to 30 feet, and then it cranks over in the middle. And the problem was I couldn't rotate the beam to put the tines of the beam or the elements so that they were turned so they could go down into the tree. Let me get back here to where you can see. And of course, I went too far. There we go. This maple, this Japanese maple, has grown probably triple what it was when we were there 11 years ago, when we started. There was a huge tree right there standing where the tower is right now, and a friend of mine who was 20 years my junior came and helped me take it out and dig out the roots of the whole thing, and it took a whole week between he and I doing that. It was a major, major job. I've got pictures of that, but I didn't want to show those tonight because it'll take forever. And if you don't think I mean it, come sometime. Let me show you all those pictures. All right. My wife did a fabulous job of taking every day a little progress, a little more progress, and as that trunk of that, or the stump of the tree disappeared slowly but surely. All right, well, we've got it over as far as we can put it right there. And there's no sense of going any farther. This is still too high to reach up here. And this, of course, is the 2-meter 440 antenna sticking out here and the 4-element 6-meter beam on top of everything else. So we said, you know, this is not going to work. So we put the tower back up, and little by little we raised it. And this good-looking fellow right here had all the right gear with him to climb the tower. Larry, bless your heart, I love you to death. You bailed me out that day along with the help of everybody else to make sure everything was done right. So Larry's all set to go, and we've got the tower, I think, back up into position, and Larry says, okay, I love being up in the air, so, and you know, he's not a pilot, but he loves just the same. And he's up here looking at that thing and decides, let's find out what's going on. And he's getting right at it there. Can you see it all right, everybody? All right. And again, if you can, just let me know, because this thing zooms really nicely. Look at that. Isn't he awesome? Yeah, and so here we go on the next one, and there's a whole picture of the whole tower standing out there by itself or outstanding in its field, whichever you prefer. And Larry's doing his thing, and I'm going to zoom on through here fairly soon and everything. He's got the rotator out of the tower. A major job, folks. Have you ever tried to take one out with a beam on top of it and keep it there? He did a great job of it. Pried it up into position and clamped it down up on top so that it wouldn't go anywhere. The thrust bearing was what I suspected. I thought it was grabbing, and the rotator couldn't turn because it was getting old. It does make a little bit of noise, so I thought, that's got to be the problem. But it wasn't. It was the rotator. So he took it out, and here we are with it on the table down here, taking a look at it, and doing a little testing, trying to make sure all the connections are right, the resistances are right. We've got the booklet down here that we printed out online, the manual, and and of course you can see I'm still studying it long after he's got everything going over here on the other side. This is the group. We took a lunch break, and the reason for that is because when we finally determined that yes, it is the rotator, it is bad, the electrical connections are all right, and my friend Jim, W4NTA, not a member of the club here, but a wonderful friend that knows me, and I don't know, maybe some of you know Jim. He and Phil, well, Phil introduced him to me. Phil is N4LNE, and Phil and I have become really good friends over the past year. So Jim said, I'll go get one for you down at HRO. I said, good grief, really? You're going to run right down there? Well, we gave them a call first to make sure they had one, and yes, lo and behold, they did. So Jim went down while we sat here and had a little bit of food, as you can see. Everybody had a ball. And here's Phil, by the way, if some of you don't know Phil. He's a pretty neat fellow, you know. He's got some issues, and all of us do at one place or another, but Phil has got, his spine is fused from the neck all the way to his tailbone in this position. And he can't turn his head, he can't do anything except do this. And bless his heart, he's the greatest comedian, and he's a great ham, and I try to help him out in every way that I can. We went to the doctor together today, so that was just one more event with Phil. And Phil is going to have his radio on a little bit later, by the way, and we're going to try to talk to him through the computer over the remote at my house to his house, which is only 6 miles apart. We're going to also try to talk to somebody else farther away, but that's the story on that one. All right, a little bit later, of course, Larry gets back into his gear, ready to go up the tower with a brand new tail twister rotator. And don't know exactly what was going on here. I think that may be out of order, but some of the education is definitely trying to penetrate that hard hat there. And here he is, of course, watching what's going on from the back of our house. And that's where we were sitting while we were having lunch that day. Beautiful day. It's amazing. That was April, folks. Way back in, wasn't it, Cheryl? April, yeah. I thought it was just 4 months ago or so, but not the case. All right, we're getting everything hooked back up again electrically or electronically, as the case may be. Larry's back up at the top again. And of course, this thing's spinning free right now. It's not in the right direction quite yet. North, by the way, is pointed out here. If I were to draw a line from here straight on out this direction, it's not toward the house. It's off, well, almost in line with the tower, straight out there, and that's north of where we live. All right, a little contemplation and suggestions going on. We have the sidewalk referees, and Larry's way up there in the top again. If I zoom in, let's see how much we can see right up there. Larry, you worked very hard on that. I'm not kidding. Getting that in place. We lowered it a little bit. It was way up high at first. We put it down a little bit lower and then dropped the mast into it, and it worked. And got it all lined up. Larry had to drill holes through the new tail twister to lock it down with a nice bolt about as big as my finger right here, you know. And it goes nowhere. It stays right where I want it now. And that's the motley crew that was left when everything else was done. And a lot of great help. I really, really appreciate it, guys. Give yourselves a hand. Operating remotely via the internet. How many of you have actually tried to do that with your own radios? Okay, 1, 2, 3, not too many. It is a fun thing to do. I used to do it a long time ago because whenever I'd go on travel, I wanted to, you know, sit in my hotel room and didn't have anything else to do, and take my computer and connect into my own radio and operate. I get bored when I'm out there without a radio, you know. So I started out with HRD. HRD has a server. It hooks right up, and if you run HRD on the other end, give it the right IP address, it connects right into your radio, and you can operate it back and forth, but you can't hear anything. So now what are you going to do? The audio from the radio has to be ported through something and Skype came to mind. And Skype allows you to do an auto connect. Don't know if you're aware of that. It used to be, at least. I don't think they do it anymore, maybe since Microsoft took over. So I did that for a long time. And I gave permission to others to do it, 2 or 3 guys, you know, but that was it. You can't tell all your radio club, pretty much, although I thought about it back then. But I finally found a piece of software that makes all the difference in the world, and it's called RC4B. That's the software. You get it at, there we go, and let's see if I can do this right. Remote control, it's at remotehams.com. Anybody know about this besides the fact that I presented this once before here? All right, let me ask this question. How many of this is brand new to you? Oh, good. I feel better. I have changed it. I've updated it. There's a lot more information here than there was the last time, and I hope it's meaningful too. Let's see, what else was it that I had? So it graduated to the ultimate level of remote operation. What you have is remote control, chat, and VoIP in one app, all together now. No need for multiple programs, and it has a mobile app available as well. I forgot to say something just a moment ago before I go on, and that is, during the presentation, if you have a question, ask it right then. Get your hand in the air. We're not going to wait to the end because you may have forgotten what your question was by that point in time. And so we'll try to make it that way, rather interactive if we can, all right? So, next thing, excellent support from the folks at Remote Hams, and I haven't told you yet, but it's free. And so many people think they've got to pay money to get this other one that's out there, which is called, I forget if it's Remote Space Hams. You know which one I'm talking about?
Remote ham radio.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, baby. And it costs money. And that works fine. But why should you pay money when it's free? This is free. The only difference is you'll find that it is so good that you're going to want to contribute, which I did, and many people have contributed to these guys as well. All right, let's go to the next slide. Basic remote control. It means join Remote Hams for free. Download their client called RC4. Now, as far as I know, that's remote control for, and I thought I put the note here, but I didn't. We'll find it eventually. I believe it is in there. And the next thing is, come over here, upload a copy of your license because they won't allow you to transmit. None of us who have their stations online want somebody transmitting on our radio if they don't have a license, and you can't prove it. So they upload, or you upload, when you get this software, a copy of your license to remotehams.com, install and configure the program, RC4B, and then operate numerous remotes via the web. It's fantastic. I would recommend, as you can see, a microphone connected to your computer. And if you're doing a laptop, it's still much better to have a headset with a microphone coming out over here because you'll get presence of sound, much nicer, easier to work. Everything about it is better. A headset also only costs about $24 for a very good quality, yes.
And I'm probably jumping ahead, but how do you do push to talk?
I'll say it again.
How do you do push to talk?
Push to talk is done via the mouse controller, okay? And that's the way you have it right now. Eventually they may end up with a foot switch method of doing it, but it's not really necessary because it's very easy while you're talking to somebody. Just click one button on and it's talk now. Click it again and you are finished talking for a while at least. All right, let's go on. I gave this to the Aries group once, I don't know, a year or so ago, and they were asking questions like, how can it help? Aries, well, it's remote HF and VHF or UHF, depending on what radio you've got tied in, of course. And there's no radio, if you have no radio equipment, it's no problem. No computer, you can use your smartphone. That's another nice part. This has an app on your smartphone, and you'll see all about that before I'm finished. And by the way, how long do I have? From now till a quarter till 9? Is that about right? Okay. And so you can hear and transmit outside the incidence area, which is important when everything else seems to fail. Many remotes are available worldwide. Question?
How up to date is it on new radios as far as configuring it? You've got a 7610, so it must be pretty current.
And my brother, who came into some pretty big money because he lost his leg and shouldn't have, some insurance paid off for him. He got the TS990. I believe that's the right one. It's what, 6,000, something like that, I believe. And it works on that one beautifully. In fact, all of the controls on that radio are there available to your use. Now, I'm going to show you later that you can control what the user sees, and that's very important. You don't want just anybody pushing all those buttons. That's for sure. All right, did I miss anything? And you can use digital modes with this. That's something that didn't work at first, and just recently, the folks that wrote this program came up with a better VoIP that will support digital modes. And I have quite a few guys like to use FT8 on my radio. Cool. All right. Getting started. All right. This is a recap again. We've already gone over some of that. Download the apps, client and server, if you want to put your system on. And you do not have to share it with the world. I'll tell you more about that. You want to do it yourself and just a few friends, you can do it. But it's all in one app. That's the beautiful part about it. Install the apps. Run the client. All right. Now this is what it looks like when you get on their remote site or Remote Ham's website. I know it's probably pretty hard to see that from your location. Difficult for me to expand it right now, but up here at the top, you start in and it's telling you a little bit about their alpha version, which is the latest version that does not work on Windows 7, by the way. It works on Windows 10. And then down here at the bottom in the right-hand side is sign up. That's the most important part. You can read all the rest of that, but sign up. It's free. Did I say that? All right, did I go one too many? Oh, there we go. All right, up here at the top you'll find a tab that says downloads. So you go there and you see these three categories. At the very top category, the newest client is at the top, the older client in the middle, and the server is at the bottom. And there's three versions of each one. So if you find that one doesn't work on your system, you can fall back to the previous version and see if that works. I have not heard anybody tell me that any version of this doesn't work except what I told you just a moment ago about version 7 versus version 10. All right, and all right, let's see, if you're running, okay. You do want to start with the latest version if possible. How many folks are running Windows 10, by the way? Okay, pretty much everybody. A few people, and I know in my case I've got one of each, so that if one doesn't work I can go to the other one, and that's just because I was IT guy for so long back at the Applied Physics Lab. They do not. No, and they don't have an Apple version. That's where you guys who have those need to get in touch with them and tell them, please, please, port it over. Yes?
Have you tried to run it in Wine on Linux?
No, sir, I haven't. That's a good question. Yes, go ahead, Dave.
Actually, I did try to run it under Wine. I couldn't get it to run successfully. I use it under VirtualBox instead.
Okay, so that worked.
VM.
Virtual machine? Yeah, all right. Very good. Get out of it. All right. Next page. This is what the original remote client looks like, and this is the one that still works on version 7 of Windows. The biggest issue with it is on the right-hand edge, right over here, you can see these tabs, not very clearly perhaps, but they are amplifier and rotator, I believe, and switches. All right? Does it make sense at all? When you touch those, when you're running the actual application, they pop out. And you can use them and click on them and use them, and when you're done, it goes back out of the way so that you have this nice big window for all the buttons and sliders and choices to use, and of course dialing in your frequency over here in the corner if you want. Or you can raise and lower each one of these. They have a little tab at the top, you know. You want to go up one, you just go up right there, touch that, click, goes up to 301. Click the bottom, down to 300. It's easy to tune. Of course, if you want to play with it, you can go over here and turn this around. Oops. Cheryl and I were doing this earlier, and she said, don't click, don't click. So, yeah, you can actually use that and rotate it like this and tune with it that way. And it just goes, you know, at 1 hertz per second, a little bit, or it's not very fast. Fastest way is just set it where you think you want it, or just stay here at 1 kilohertz and go up 1 kilohertz at a time until you find somebody talking. Yes?
Don't forget that you've got the pointer up there. The pointer, if you want to
I
use
do,
it.
don't I?
Yes.
Would it help?
Your
Yeah,
notes
because you're
on your
playing on your
screen,
screen
on
and we're
this
not
one.
seeing it.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, because you're.
Well, that wasn't nice of me.
Whack.
Crazy. So, where was I? Yeah, here, of course, again, are the things that pop out. Here's where you can go over and actually type in a frequency and hit enter. Bang, it pops up here on the main screen. Of course, you can go with more controls. On this particular page, on the 7600 and this old version, this is hidden. There's a whole slew of buttons that are hidden until you put your cursor in here. And once you do that, then everything drops down and you see the rest of the controls. And of course, then they have the mode, the attenuator, the antenna, switch, and so forth over here. What I was saying is you click up here on top, click here, for instance, for the 1 kilohertz up and down, and dial through the band that way, because most people are on even, you know. Not all of them, and I don't understand why so many are on 5.500 anymore. Is that right? Okay. Well, you can actually set this one so the increments are 100 at a time, right here. So that works as well. All right, what else? Oh, and you can use the mouse on this, which I wasn't showing you, I apologize. And you can tune it this way or this way, either one. And then you can tell it what the increment is right here, up and down, 0.5 in this particular case, which I believe would be right here. All right, I think I've covered that one pretty well. Let me go back over here.
Does it respond to touch if you have a touch screen?
Yes, absolutely. And you'll see you can do that from your phone. And most phones are operated that way, obviously. Touch, touch, touch. All right, let me go to the next page here with this one. And note that the other devices are already expanded in the newer version. That's right over here. Now you're going to see after a moment that these are lit up with controls once we connect. This is what we call the lobby in the newer, better client. And you can scroll that thing up and down. You see how small that bar is and how many things it would take for you to see the rest of them? I think it says down here, if I look real carefully, there are, where was it?
209 online.
Yep, 209 units online. And some of these are really not online right now, but they show them just the same. They're grayed out, you see. This is a friend of mine up in Massachusetts that I worked with at a radio station many, many years ago, 1965. And so this is the chat area. We're going to talk about that a little more. This is where you can type in messages in Morse code, and when you hit enter, it sends it all at once. You configure it also, and we'll go into that. And I think that's, oh, of course you can control your volume on receive up here, and you control your mic volume right there whenever you're connected. So you find somebody like this, N4 got your number or something like that, and you double click right there, and bingo, you're connected. All right, let's go some more here. And this is what it looks when it's propagated and they're connected, and that is my remote, or was at the time I took the snapshot here and put it in. It's, oh, the nice part on this one is that if you use the mouse cursor and you touch it anywhere like west, it'll automatically just start turning until it gets there. Beautiful. You don't have to click go. In the mobile application you do. You have to click somewhere where you want it to go, or put the bearing, the exact bearing in here, and then click go, and it goes to that location. If you say, wait a minute, I made a mistake, you can click stop, and then reset it and go forth. All right, this is that chats window I mentioned to you. This is the message that the user sees as soon as they connect with my radio. Actually, there's another one pops up right in the middle of the screen, which is a welcome message, which says about the same thing that this one does. And let's see, what else? The controls on this one are all there. This was my, yeah, that's the 7610. And I limited the number of controls for the users since several people started using ones that made it difficult for the next user to even know where to go. And they've located the drop down over here on the left. And these things can pop out so that you can see that you want to change bands right there. You can do it real quickly, or you can put in a frequency again. That'll pop out, and you can just type in the frequency and go. Over here is the switch. I bought an ADR 2200 switch online and put it into the system, and a little bit of confusion for some of the users, and that's the fact that radio antenna number 1, what does it say there? That's attenuate, yeah, it's on number 2. It's on 20 meters and above, and everything 20 meters and above comes out on number 2 automatically with this radio. And it comes over here to this part of the switch, the first 4 switches, and you can go between the 20 meter through 10 Yagi or switch it to the 6 meter Yagi that's on top. And it'll actually, change. You go from here and click on that one becomes white, this one is dark. The other 2 that are in this switch system, totally uniquely different. If you click it on, it's one thing. If you click it off, it's another. The next one's the same. And if you click all 4 of them, they'll all 4 light up, which can get very confusing. And you have to really think some logic through before you set this up with somebody. When they go to my website, this is totally spelled out, and there's a diagram shows them what they need to know about that. So I believe that will be it. I don't have an amplifier yet that is automated or able to control remotely. Eventually, I'm considering the Othercraft. I've got to talk to the boss a little more about that one, I think. All right. Next. This is another remote. This is my friend Tom in Shirley, Massachusetts. Tom has a superstation. You can see, and I can't use the pointer. That's very interesting. Or can I? Does it go over there? Yeah, it does. Look at that. And he's got his switches set up in the upper right-hand corner, uniquely different than mine. And then down below, he does have this Othercraft amplifier, and that's how I got acquainted with it. You can control everything about it. Turn it on, turn it off. It actually has a built-in tuner of its own, so you don't have to think about adding a tuner in addition to that. So that's one thing you can sell to somebody else. And then down at the bottom again, the rotating controller. Same story. Pretty much the same otherwise. He does have a few extra controls or less, it depends. He's got some on there that I wouldn't allow. Quick memory and that kind of thing. All right, moving along. This is the mobile app. That's what my phone looks like when I touch the RC4 or Android 8. Well, I put down there APRS Droid app. That's not it. That's my notes over here. And the next screen shows you the remotes that are listed immediately upon logging in. Oh, by the way, I should have told you also, when you bring up the client for the very first time, you've already set up your call letters and your password online with them. You bring up the client the first time, it asks you for your name or your call sign and your password. You give it to it once, that's it. It's over. The next time you bring up the client, you're there connected, or you're looking at the list of programs. I mean remotes. All right, and that's what that looks like. So that tab right there, and I'm not pointing to it, but that tab right there is what we're looking at. All right. The next thing we see is the radio control, which is after you've connected with one of those remotes, and here it is, the radio control there. And like I said, this is where you can put your finger on your phone and just dial the radio up and down, do whatever you want. And if you click right in here, you can change the frequency. It'll pop up with number pad. You can type in the frequency right there and then touch enter, and it changes the main VFO frequency right online. If you touch LSB, you can change the mode immediately without having to go to the menu. You look confused, Dave.
Yeah, it's just, no, I'm seeing the frequencies, you're on the 80 meter band, but then to the left of the tuning knob, it's showing you a button for 160 meters, but no other bands.
Oh, okay. These are things that give you choices. You can go to 160 if you click here immediately. If you also cursor onto that, and it'll give a drop down and it'll let you choose the band that you want to change to immediately. You can do the same thing through the menus, but the menus become more difficult. This is putting it on A, of course, here. If you want to change and go to B and then change this while you're listening up here on the main VFO, you can do that. You want to tell the thing to tune right now and get the antenna SWR down, just click on that. If you're ready to talk, PTT means push to talk. And so over here, we're going to look next under this one. There's a lot of controls here. I'm not going to give you every one of them right now. I think we'd go past the hour if I did. But it's pretty simple. You know, A/B means swap these two if one's on a different band and the other one isn't. Voice, I think, tells the system to enunciate the frequency when you click on it. We've got round up, and we've got up and down. And the up and downs can be set by this right here. If you want to go up and down 1 hertz, 100 hertz at a time, you can do it right here. Just click up and down, which makes this work really nicely in here, right at this digit right there. All right, you can change that again and make this 0.5 if you want, 500 hertz, etc., etc. Let's see, what else? Any questions about that page? Anybody? All right. This is the radio control menu. The highlighted buttons are turned on, by the way. I don't know if you can see them. There's one. All right, I begin pointing in the wrong place. That one, this one over here, this one over here, and this one down here. They're turned on and they're hard to see. But those are functions, hard to see here even. Okay, noise blanket turned on, manual notch filter, passband clear, and power, and so forth. So that's yet another screen. The buttons page is what it's called. All right. This is the drop-downs page, and if you click on any one of these, right here, you'll get a drop-down that allows you to change the mode, of course, or the filter, or the AGC, or the preamp, or so forth. And then I'll click menu here again in a moment. Let's see if we can do it this way, and that'll do a little bit better. All right. This, of course, is the sliders page, which is pretty neat, I think. You just take the course with your finger and touch right there and pull it back down if you don't want that much power. And of course, when the guys run digital mode, they definitely need to get it down way, way, way down there. CW speed even is controllable here. Passband tuning, so you can get rid of some of those high-pitched, what do they call them, heterodynes. And then your RF gain on receive, which some of the guys are learning more and more about, like getting rid of some of the noise that we talked about. All right, let's go to the next one. And that, of course, is the mobile client rendition again of the rotator controller. And again, you can touch it anywhere on that globe and then click go with your finger and it'll go to that location. All right. Anybody getting sleepy? I hope not. I have to ask once in a while, This is the chats window, which is the next tab up here at the top. We went from this, we went to this. This is where you can see who else is logged into the radio right here. Sometimes that fills up, so you have a scroll bar on the side, and you see how many there are. And many people can operate the radio at the same time if they take turns. Obviously, they can't all talk at once. But they can do that, and this is how they do it. They talk down here, they say to each other, may I tune? And the other guy that's in there before them says yes or no. Hang on, I'm almost done. And so forth. And this in red is the same message that you saw earlier on the PC client that I tell everybody, okay, please, you must click ask. If you don't and you just start transmitting, you're going to make me angry someday. Because I'll be sitting at the radio and the monitor for this, server is up over here on my station. You may have seen that earlier. and the operating manual, or where I'm working, is down below. So it's funny, they have not done something that I'm asking them for, and that is a ding, a sound when somebody clicks ask. You never, you don't hear it. So you don't know unless they start tuning sometimes, and that can be a problem for both of us, the user and myself. Hard with that. Okay, this is the built-in DX cluster. Folks, this is an awesome thing. Where else will you find a remote control system that's got this built right in? You go up here and you click right there to connect, and it just simply connects right off the bat. And you can change so that it only shows one band or another, or just all bands. It doesn't matter. You click right here. And then, of course, these are the DX stations in red all the way down the line. These are the people that posted it. And this is the frequency that they're on over here and the mode that they're in. If you click anywhere in this whole space right here, your radio will tune to that instantly. So you've got that DX right coming in if you can hear him at all. That's a beautiful thing, using the DX cluster built in. And I don't think that's, oh, it may be on the client that we have in the regular PC mode. I better look at that. I hadn't thought about it. And you can set the filter to filter out stations you don't want, or stations you do want. And you can change the mode. If you don't want to see any CW people, contrary women, no, that's, sorry, continuous wave. There you go. Okay. So DX cluster, another great feature. Let's go to the next page. They also have an embedded web browser, which again is gosh, guys, you know, I can't tell you how excited I am about this piece of software, because you just type in any call sign up here and hit go, and it's going to show you who it is down here. That's built in. You don't have to go off to another app to do it. It's all right here on that tab. Come and slide those tabs back over, and you're back over to chat, slide it over again, and you're in control. Does it log for you? I don't think so. No, not on this one, at least, not right here. No. That was a good question. All right. What was the other one? You know, this is what it looks like in your browser down here, but they've added this nice big area to type in your call sign that you want to look up. Otherwise, you would be doing it. Clear down here and going, can I see that? And so forth. All right. Any other questions? I'm not done. We're going to look at the RC4 server. You've been looking at the client, the two different versions of the client, and now we're going to look at the server. This is, it shows whenever a user clicks the ask button and any messages they may type to you or other users. We talked about that a little bit before. But if I'm sitting at my desk and I'm watching the people that are logging in, here's where they show up over here. And if they click the ask button on the client, it shows up right down here, and this is what happens. May I tune the remote? And then if I want to talk with them, I type in a message here and hit enter, and they see my message if they're paying attention. And most of them are. Occasionally there's somebody who isn't, and you can get their attention just the same, no matter what they're doing on their PC. You type in /PM, personal message, and their call sign, and whatever you want to say after that, and it flashes a big old message right in the middle of their screen on their PC. You got their attention. And sometimes that happens because, well, some of them get to listening and nod off. You know how that is. You've never done that. I know. Let's see, what else can I tell you about this one? Let's go on to the next one. Let's just do it this way. Say it again?
Nod off just before they
Pass it to you, yeah, that's when you nod off, just before they pass it to you in a round table. That's funny, it's not clicking. Do I have to do that? Hello. Did it quit already?
Throw the key.
Yeah, yes I will. Okay, let's go. Oh, I see what happened. Something popped up on this screen over here and made it stop. There we go. Okay, now we'll do it this way. You have a lot of options in the server, guys. This is great. It gives you control, the kind of control that you want. And we'll see the majority of that control on all of these icons that go across here behind, and I'll show that to you in a little while. What I'm going to do now is step down through each of those options real quickly. This one is the audio latency adjustment. Most of the time, if you have a high-speed network, you should be using low latency right there. Just select that, and this disappears, and it stays up here like that, and you move on. And you say save. All right? The next one in the list is global server configuration. And these ports are already preset for the operation, and you really don't want to play with them unless you've got a situation where you're trying to do this with a club at the, what's it called, Applied Physics Laboratory, where they have their own major firewalls and DMZ and you name it. You can control your audio here or set them for, hopefully they'll stay exactly where they are, except for Windows 10, which tries to change everybody's audio every time they get a chance. And what else can I tell you in here? That's about it, I guess. Let's go on over again. And the next item was radio connection. This is on my system. It's a USB connection in the back of the radio, which serves not only remote control, but also audio at the same time on one thing. And you look, of course, at the ports that show up on your computer, and you say, ah, there it is, that's the one that I need, number 15. And told it it's an ICOM 7610. And this was something I believe was checked already, and I said, okay, leave it alone. If there's any unstable drivers, hopefully it'll tell me about it, and I'll go dig up a better one. Push-to-talk and CW Keen can be set up here, and of course push-to-talk is just, in my case, and in many of your cases, would be via computer-assisted control. And then external CW Keen, look at this. You can let somebody run their radio from your computer right here, and you set it up with a, what do they call it? Oh, okay. You have a special cable. You want to buy a special cable, I forget, it's maybe $20, $19.95. It is a USB cable on the port that goes into your radio, or your computer rather. On the other end is a 1/4-inch plug that goes into your radio itself. That's in your regular straight key input, okay? And it runs it very fast or very slow, whatever you want to do. And you use DTR, and it will control that and allow the users to run CW. And they can have feedback as well. They can hear it on their end. At first they couldn't, but they've got that squared away, everything's working. Other devices, of course, I don't have the amp. I did have the switch, and it's enabled on that this port and that serial rate. The rotator controller is called the DCU1. I have to tell you just a little bit about this. Let me check my time. Oh, I'm running out. Okay. Rather than pay, let's see, what did I find out here? Yeah. I bought what is known as the Rotator Easy board. Have you all heard about it? It's a kit. It's online for $99.95, and you can put it in a high gain rotator controller after you build it yourself, and it will substitute for the high gain DCU3 box that you can buy for $449.95. So you can put that in, hook it up with RS-232, and bingo, you're on your way. It works great. All right. Next thing is the global server configuration, which pretty much you don't have to do hardly anything with it. The timeout timer is pretty important. You don't want somebody to talk forever. And in some radios, that'll overheat their radio. You know what I mean? So I set mine for 300, which is about 5 minutes. That's a lot longer than most guys should talk anyway. Right viewers have a tendency to do that. And of course, you guys know about 3-minute timers on repeaters and everything else. All right. Down there at the bottom, I should say a word about this. If you want to run, HRD has DM780. You familiar with that? Digital modes program. And you want to control your radio and do all the digital modes into it, you want this to be enabled and put it on version 5 of HRD. Okay, and it'll automatically connect right into it using DM780, right in through this operating. Yes?
Will it work with the later versions of HRD?
I cannot verify, don't know. I suspect it will. I think that they're backwardly compatible. If you click this, this is the highest level that they offer. The other one was version 4. They don't show anything else more than that. This just stays the same no matter what. You can play with those, but I don't recommend it. All right, let's see. Going back to options just for a moment, the next item is the Othercraft K3 emulation, which does exactly the same thing, but you can also use a K3 and use it and actually remotely and tune this radio with it as if he was tuning his own. That's pretty cool, And there's where you set it up. You turn on the virtual serial port, set this to what you want it to be. That port can be any number that you want it to be. And then when you want to connect with your system through the Othercraft, you can connect through that port, no problem. All right, let's see. This is what happens after you've done all your setups and you start it up and tell it, okay, let's really make it run as a server. And that's the first screen full. Of course, it's telling us all the things that it's trying to do. And again, I want to thank Kyle for this. Thank you so much, Kyle. It's connecting to the radio and the exact one, initializing the driver. It's doing the K3 emulation down here and setting that port up, connecting to the rotator, connecting to the switch, all of the things that need to be done in the direct sound and so forth. And then, go over here and then that's the rest of it there. Now, obviously, that kind of picked right up again from here and went down. And this, when it's finally finished connecting and is forwarding the ports that are necessary for people to come into your system properly, what do you call it? The word escapes me. And then it finally says synchronized with remote hands. That's it. It's ready to go. Now, after you see all that looking good and there's no red marks or anything in there, you'll click on chats again. And in this particular case, I had shown you chats earlier, so I'm just going to jump past that and show you the activity tab. Here, people, you can see who has been operating it and exactly what they've done historically. This shows 100 at a time. To begin with, you can set it to 250 instances, and you can set it to 500. I don't think it goes any farther than that, but that's all right. That's 500 episodes or 500 events is a long ways back. This lets you know if somebody's goofing off. You can actually tell what they're doing. And I couldn't bring this whole thing. You can slide this down here, of course, back over across here, and you can see much farther over on the right, and it shows error messages if they've done things that they're not supposed to do. All right. This is what's known as memory, and Cheryl came up and, what did you call it, honey? Presets. They call it memories. I like hers better. These are presets that are set up by you, the person who initializes your own radio and sets it up. I put these 60-meter presets in here for people because I didn't want them trying to tune it themselves and get it wrong. And it's all on my webpage saying, all right, guys, this is what you want to do is go on your client and click down at the bottom. It says memories down at the bottom. You click it down there and this pops up. You can scroll up and down here. There's quite a few of them in mine. And you can go to all these different places just by double-clicking on that, and the radio immediately switches to that location, that mode, and that filter. The publishing tab up here allows you to say, all right, I want my system visible on remote hams in the client, in the lobby. I don't know if you remember that very first thing, it's called the lobby, and if you don't select this, which I forgot to do one time, nobody knows you're out there. They don't even know you exist unless you told a person your IP address. Go ahead, Dave.
So if you are testing and you log in to the client somewhere else, can you still log into your system if that's not checked?
Yes. Yeah. You just need to know the IP address. That's all. That's pretty simple, really. So you get into your client and you go to new, instead of using one of the items that's in there already, you say new and you put in the IP address and the name of the station that you're connecting to and hit enter and it connects. And it will save it for you as something you can do again. That's the nice thing.
Until your ISP changes your IP.
Well, yeah, you're right, of course. And there's ways of getting around that as well. No, you don't have to. No,
No IP.
that's right.
NoIP.com.
Did everybody hear that? You can go to noip.com. It keeps track of what your IP address is, and it has an alias that you can use. And in my case, my alias is N4GYN. All right. The additional parts is that you can say, yes, I want to transmit to be allowed on my server. You can use club mode if you want to. That gives you another layer of protection against some users. Privacy from guests. And I have checked that lately since I learned some of the people called guests that come in are not hams, and they don't know what they're doing. So there is privacy from guests. You'll see them log on, and they're there for about 2 seconds, and they're gone. Because it says, bye. You put in your information here, guys, and you submit your welcome message. This is the one that shows up after they've clicked and logged in, and it's down there at the bottom of the chats window. This is the one that pops up in the middle of their screen called the pop-up message, which can be different from this. Right now, mine is very similar. This was clarifying how to use the switching for the antenna. And there it is again. We'll do what it's supposed to do. I'm having an error message pop up over here every so often, and that likes to make it harder for me. Going back to the icons up there on top, all of these icons take you to functions inside options real quick without having to click on options and go there. This one, of course, wasn't even in the options, and this is how you can tell your system, I'm offline. For how long? 5 minutes, 15, 30, etc., or infinity. And it'll stay up and running, but offline. Nobody can do anything with your radio while you're doing your thing. When you're all done, back over here, and click on that one, and the remote gets enabled. It has been enabled, it's disabled, and synchronized now with remote hands again. That's okay. The club manager, which is this one, that's kind of cool. I put the club up there. And that's a little bit different. These people get authorized to connect and transmit, but they don't have any other privileges until you welcome them here into the club and approve them here. And since I'm not a club operation, I didn't go any farther than denying one guy who thought I was. Okay. This one is what I use. People will click the TX button on my server or via their remote, and they'll say, I want to transmit, thinking they can just go and do it, and it says, no, you can't do that. Please click here if you want permission, and it puts it right in here, puts their call sign, and I check it every day, and I come in here and I click on their call sign, hit the verify license, and it takes me over to my web browser and shows me whether they actually uploaded their license to remotehams.com. And when you get done, if you say approve, then you can jump right to the user's controls down here and manage whether they can use the other items, such as your rotator, your switch, or your amplifier controls. There are some people you don't want to use your amplifier controls. All right, guess you figured that out. All right.
Question
Yes.
about transmitting.
Yes.
Remote hams works not just in the U.S. It works in other countries.
Everywhere.
So how do you deal with the licensing issues with other countries?
Let me go back here for a minute. You see how many users I have? Can you read it? 778. That's 4 years, as far as I can remember, 4 years of having people say, hey, I would really like to use your remote. How do I vet them? Is that the right word? Or vet? Vet? Yes. If they can't speak English, they can't use my radio. If they don't have information on QRZ, I will give them a one chance. If I watch and they're doing all right and they're behaving themselves, they can continue. It's that simple, really. That's all it is. If they haven't put their license up online with remote hams, they don't get to transmit. They don't get any privileges. They can listen. They can tune the radio, actually, but they can't do anything else. Answer your question? Yes. All right. You see, I've denied 79 of them there. You always have those bad apples. This is the other device user's permission manager. And every once in a while, I, in a hurry, would give them permission to transmit and forget to go into the other device's setup and say to them, okay, and they're over here telling me, hey, I want to use that. I want to tune the rotator. I want to change the beam setting, and it'll show up here. And if I check on a regular basis, then I can say approve or edit their settings and let them go. I'm almost out of time. Sorry, guys. Let's see what else we have. The IP manager, very, 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 very important. I had one fellow that I denied. I banned him because he was acting out and doing rude things on text and everything. I banned him. He came back. And he came back and he kept coming back, and he would just irritate the dickens out of me. And he couldn't do anything. He was banned from transmitting, but he wasn't banned from sitting there typing messages. So I looked up, and when you look at them in that user's list, you can see their IP address. So you come over to this guy and the IP manager, and you type in their IP, and it brings up who they are. You edit it, and you ban them by IP. That same fella in Russia, by the way, came back 4 more times with a different IP. Yeah. And every time I banned him, and so he finally gave up. And he's not in there anymore. Yeah, oh, perhaps, yeah. That is the user manager I was talking about a moment ago. This is where you can click on it and get there. And again, as I say, there's their call sign, here's their IP address. This is how many times they've logged in, and what was the last login. It is sorted by the most recent user at the top, okay? And then whether they can transmit, whether they've been banned or banned until a certain time, if you want to give them a little time to cool down. Over here is global security. This you can control what everybody does. The receive frequencies, what you can allow, transmit frequencies, all the regular bands, and blocked frequencies. This is called children's band, I believe it is. Or CB, and I blocked that one because I don't want anybody sitting there listening to all that junk. And so blocked features, they can't turn it on the monitor or turn it off, they can't scan, they can't run the tones, etc. on that radio. And so you have total control of all of that. The allowed buttons, transmit D for digital. By the way, you need to know this real quick, and that is if you tell them they can use TX without the D, it'll turn on the microphone in your shack as well. If you're sitting there talking to somebody, like my wife, and it's personal, it gets right on the air if you're not careful. So the TX button doesn't exist on my radio on the remote control. So they can use TXD, they can do tune, etc., etc. We allow as many drop downs as people will use, sliders that we can use. We allow messages for them to see, and then the statuses show up, whether they're on VFO1, main VFO, sub VFO, etc. And then we enable the user level permissions for other devices as well. And finally, the database manager. This is a no place unless you know databases extremely well. If you get in there and start changing things, it'll screw the whole thing up and you're in bad, bad trouble. So therefore, as soon as you're all set up and everything's working right, back it up. And you back up all the parameters, and if you have somebody mess up your system or it gets damaged somehow, reinstall the server, do your restore, you're back and running in just minutes. Very, very nicely done. And I was going to show it live, but we're out of time. You've probably seen it, a few of you have, I think, in the past. Question?
Hey, and let's see if I can figure out how I want to ask this. What is your motivation to let other people use your radio?
The best way to explain that is when I became a pilot and I learned how to fly, and I'm up there boring holes in the sky having a good time, I got bored. I wanted to share it with people. I wanted them to see how cool it was. And I did. And from that point on, I almost never flew again by myself. I always took somebody sometime, somehow. I would invite somebody and they'd have fun. Same story here. When I got my ICOM 7600, I was so proud of it. Man, I'll tell you, for me that was a pearl of great price. I sold a pile of equipment to get it, first of all. and it was beautiful radio. And I knew it had a lot of controls, so I put it online for people to see. Same story here at the 7610, even more so. I like to share it. I like to see what other people will do with it. I like to teach. And I'll teach them with, I'm a pretty good typist, so out down there on the chat bar, I send messages to them. And if they can send messages back, we communicate that way. I forgot to mention, there was one control in there on the buttons page, which is entitled Test. If you click Test, you can actually use the whole thing as an intercom back and forth, and it won't transmit. You key the thing on TXD and talk to each other, and you can hear each other without it transmitting over the air. That is a very nice feature. Again, you don't have to say, let's go over to Skype and talk to each other. So it's built in that regards as well. Other questions? Back here?
Yeah, I don't know if you touched on it or not, but are band commissions a function of the license of the person logging in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's automatic.
I have a few guys that are technicians,
Okay.
and I have them locked down. Can't go anywhere but where they're supposed to go.
Likewise, the general would be like from extra.
Roger, Dodger. You bet. Yes.
What are you doing to protect your equipment to be able to walk away from it 24/7, 365?
Well, everything's on a big UPS, first of all, so it'll just keep on running for a good long time. And of course, the computer says, hey, wait a minute, the battery's sagging, I've got to shut down, and it shuts down everything properly, As far as that's concerned, there's no other protection in my case. I'm taking a chance. I leave it up 24/7. It's been going for years. Yes.
Do you shut it down when you're operating locally, or can anybody just hear you?
When I'm operating locally, I leave it running. Server's running, they can click in and hear everything I'm saying because I turn on the monitor button. Without the monitor, they can't hear what I'm saying. Yeah, and usually I try to remember to click up there in that left-hand corner that says it's out of business. You can't use it for the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes, etc. Yes.
If I use your station and make contact with Pitcairn Island, which is y'all,
I did it.
I get credit, right?
Yes, you do. You do. Yeah.
What if somebody from, say, Slovakia uses your station, or is somebody they can't get from Slovakia, they still do the law and everything?
They have, and that's part of the rules. If they don't follow my rules, they're banned. And that is, you must identify the station you're working through, the remote you're using. So it's your call via N4GYN remote.
And that's what shows up in the law for Pitcairn Island or something like that?
Correct. Yep. And I've got a few guys keep thinking that they can do what they want and say, and the person on the other end thinks that they're talking to somebody in Hawaii, for instance, and they're not. They're talking through my radio. There's a fellow that uses it out of New Zealand as well, but he pays attention. He uses my call. Everybody knows it coming out of Southeast U.S.
But your call goes out as well as his.
Only if he says so. It doesn't go out automatically. He has, yeah, it's one of those deals. And I monitor a lot. I'm doing a lot of computer work, and I'm listening all the time, watching what they do. So, yeah, that's part of the pleasure again. You wondered why I do it. Anybody else? Yes, one more.
Just a comment instead of a question. When I got the RC4 client for Android, I actually had to pay for that. Now, I know
it is $9.95, isn't it, or $10?
Yeah, although when I look on the site, when I look at Google Play now, it's not showing up, but it could be this because I've already purchased it.
I think so, yeah. That's what happens. Even if it's $19.95, it's the best deal on the market.
I bought it.
It's awesome. It really is.
It's like skipping a lunch.
Costs more than that.
That's right. Thank you, everybody.